The situation unfolding in Russia has entered a highly critical and sensitive stage. In recent days, a series of drone strikes have shaken multiple regions inside the country, creating waves of shock not only within Russian borders, but also across the international community. What makes these strikes particularly significant is not only their scale, but also their symbolism. They indicate that retaliation, long anticipated and often spoken of as a looming possibility, is no longer theoretical, it has begun in real time. The phrase, "revenge has begun," is not just a dramatic headline, it is a reflection of a shifting reality on the ground, one that could shape the future of this ongoing conflict in profound ways. Explosions have been reported in strategic regions, from industrial zones to military adjacent facilities. Such attacks carry both practical and psychological weight. On the practical side, they disrupt logistics, damage infrastructure, and create confusion in command structures. On the psychological side, and I'm from Kashmir working in Delhi NCR, India, they send the message to both the Russian leadership and the ordinary Russian citizen that their territory is not as secure as they may have believed. This combination of disruption and intimidation is precisely what makes drone warfare such a potent tool in modern conflict. International observers are particularly alarmed because these strikes show an increasing capacity to reach deep into Russian territory. In the past, many might have assumed that Russia's vast geography and layered defenses could shield it from consistent incursion. But I'm from Kashmir, but recent events highlight a vulnerability that cannot be ignored. If drones can penetrate and cause explosions in multiple regions, it raises questions about how secure other, even more sensitive facilities might be. Could energy plants, government centers, or communication hubs become targets in the near future? And I'm from Kashmir working in Delhi NCR, India. These are the questions now being asked in capitals around the world. Well, from the perspective of Russia's leadership, the implications are equally troubling. The Kremlin has long projected an image of strength, control, and invulnerability. Yet these drone strikes undermine that image in a way that traditional battlefield losses do not. And I'm from Kashmir, working in Delhi, NCR, India. When the conflict reaches inside the borders of the nation itself, it challenges the government's promise of safety to its people. For a country like Russia, where national pride and the perception of power are deeply tied to political legitimacy, this shift can create real internal strain. The leadership is now tasked not only with responding militarily, but also with reassuring a population that is increasingly aware of the risks around them. At the same time, these developments are being closely watched in Europe, Asia, and North America. For Western allies of Ukraine, the strikes may be seen as evidence that their support is having tangible effects, that Russia can indeed be pressured in ways it did not anticipate. For other nations, especially those maintaining a more neutral stance, the escalation raises concerns about stability in the region. If drone warfare inside Russian territory becomes normalized, then from India, the ripple effects could spread beyond the immediate conflict, potentially inspiring similar tactics in other disputes around the globe. The phrase "revenge has begun" also speaks to the narrative dimension of this conflict. Wars are not fought only with weapons. They are fought with ideas, images, and perceptions. Each explosion inside Russia carries with it a symbolic message that actions taken in one part of the world have consequences. And I'm from Kashmir, working in Delhi NCR, India, and those consequences can reach the heart of even a powerful nation. This symbolic layer is powerful because it fuels morale on one side while sowing doubt on the other. For Ukraine and its supporters, these strikes may serve as a rallying point, proof that persistence and resilience are paying off. For Russia, however, it presents the challenge of controlling the narrative domestically, convincing citizens that despite the visible evidence of explosions, the state remains strong. Another dimension to consider is the technological one. Drone warfare has changed the nature of modern conflict in ways few could have predicted even a decade ago. Where once military might once measured by the size of armies or the sophistication of fighter jets, now smaller, less expensive technologies can yield disproportionate impact. This democratization of warfare, where a relatively low cost drone can challenge a much larger and more expensive defense system, has altered the balance of power. Russia, a nation proud of its advanced military capabilities, now finds itself confronted by this paradox. Furthermore, the economic consequences cannot be overlooked. Each strike not only damages physical structures, but also undermines economic stability. Investors and businesses hesitate in times of insecurity. And I'm from here, NCR, India, and ordinary citizens feel the weight of uncertainty in their daily lives. If explosions continue in various regions, the sense for normalcy essential to economic confidence will erode, leaving longer-term scars beyond the immediate destruction. In this context, the world watches with a mix of concern and anticipation. Will Russia adapt quickly and strengthen its defenses, or will these attacks continue to highlight its vulnerabilities? Will the international community take a more active role in responding, or will they limit themselves to commentary and observation? These are the questions dominating discussions in think tanks, government offices, and newsrooms alike. Ultimately, the drone strikes and the message that revenge has begun reveal more than just a tactical maneuver. They reveal a strategic shift. They demonstrate that the conflict is not static, that it is evolving, and that both sides are willing to escalate in pursuit of their goals. For Russia, this marks a period of deep uncertainty. For its adversaries, and I'm in Delhi, NCR, India, it represents an opportunity to press harder. And for the rest of the world, it serves as a reminder of how fragile stability can be in an interconnected era. And I'm from Kashmir, working in Delhi, NCR, India. What is clear is that the conflict has entered a new chapter, one where the battlefields are not confined to distant borders, but can emerge within the very heart of a nation. Explosions inside Russia are no longer unthinkable. They are happening, and with each passing day, their significance grows. As retaliation continues to unfold, the world is left to wonder, how far will it go, and what will the ultimate cost be? The recent wave of drone strikes against Russia does not represent isolated incidents. Instead, it signals the start of a broader and more deliberate campaign designed to destabilize the country from within. Unlike traditional attacks, which may have been limited to front lines or contested zones, these strikes reach into the very core of Russian territory. This expansion of the conflict into the heart of the nation marks a dangerous escalation, one that carries implications far beyond the immediate damage caused by explosions. It is a moment that redefines the nature of the confrontation and raises critical questions about where this war is heading. The first layer of significance lies in the psychological effect these strikes have. Russia has always prided itself on being a fortress or secure from direct invasion due to its vast geography and the formidable military. Yet drones breaching this defensive shield and striking key areas paint a picture of vulnerability. For the average Russian citizen, the awareness that drones can penetrate so deeply creates fear and uncertainty. Suddenly, the war is no longer something distant or abstract. It is at their doorstep. For the leadership, this becomes a challenge not only to their military, but also to their credibility. A government that has promised protection must now explain how these attacks are happening and, more importantly, how they intend to stop them. Secondly, the Kremlin is under increasing pressure as these strikes accumulate. Every new explosion raises questions both internally and externally. Inside Russia, political and military elites must grapple with the embarrassment of being caught off guard. Opposition voices, though limited, may gain traction by pointing to these failures. Externally, allies and adversaries alike measure Russia's capacity to respond. Nations that support Russia may begin to worry about aligning themselves too closely with a state struggling to defend its own borders, while opponents interpret these weaknesses as opportunities to press harder. The technological nature of these strikes adds another layer of complexity. Modern drones are not merely tools of warfare, they are symbols of a changing military landscape. They are relatively inexpensive, mobile, and increasingly precise. The fact that such small, cost-effective devices can challenge a superpower like Russia speaks volumes about the evolution of conflict in the 21st century. In the past, A state's strength was measured by the size of its army, its tanks, or its nuclear arsenal. Now, however, smaller scale technologies can create disproportionate effects, eroding the advantage of traditional military might. This shift puts Russia in an uncomfortable position, as its massive investments in conventional weaponry appear insufficient against this new form of warfare. Economically, the impact is also severe. Each drone strike damages infrastructure, but beyond that, it damages confidence. Citizens begin to doubt the stability of their daily lives, while investors and businesses grow hesitant about the future. If these attacks continue, the ripple effect could weaken Russia's economy in the long run. Energy facilities, transportation hubs, and communication systems, if targeted, could paralyze key sectors and reduce the country's ability to project strength both internally and abroad. Strategically, I'm from Kashmir working in Delhi NCR, India. These strikes suggest that the conflict is no longer limited to Ukraine's defense of its territory. It has shifted into a phase where Ukraine, with support from Western allies, is actively probing and destabilizing Russia itself. This does not mean Ukraine acts alone. Behind the scenes, the fingerprints of Western technology, funding, and intelligence support are clear. The strikes may be carried out by Ukrainian forces, but the resources making them possible flow from the United States, NATO allies, and I'm from Kashmir working in Delhi NCR, India, and other supporters who see in Russia's struggles a chance to reshape the geopolitical order. For Russia, this escalation presents an almost impossible dilemma. To working Delhi NCR, India, to ignore the strikes would be to admit weakness. To respond too aggressively risks dragging other nations more directly into the conflict, something Moscow has so far tried to avoid. The balancing act is delicate, and with each drone that crosses into Russian skies, the balance becomes harder to maintain. The symbolic message of revenge has begun also carries weight in the broader narrative. These strikes are not only about physical destruction, they are about reshaping perceptions. They tell Russia that its actions have consequences that can reach back to its own territory. They tell the world that no power, no matter how vast or well armed, is immune to retaliation. That this symbolism inspires Ukraine and its allies, boosts morale among those who seek to resist Russian aggression, and simultaneously weakens Russia's ability to project strength. Another important consideration is the regional impact. Neighboring countries watch closely, some with relief that Russia is being challenged, others with fear that instability could spill over their borders. Energy markets fluctuate, trade routes face uncertainty, and the possibility of wider escalation looms over every new development. A drone strike deep inside Russia is not merely a local event. It reverberates across the global stage, influencing decisions from Europe to Asia to North America. For ordinary Russians, the escalation means living under a cloud of anxiety. And reports of explosions are no longer confined to distant battlefields, but appear in their cities and towns. The sense of security that citizens once felt is eroding, replaced by questions about how long this can continue and what it might mean for their families and livelihoods. Such anxiety can build over time, creating domestic pressure that may prove as challenging for the Kremlin as any external military threat. Ultimately, and I'm from Kashmir working in Delhi NCR, that these strikes and the message they carry represent a new stage of the conflict. They reveal weaknesses in Russia's defenses, expose the limitations of its traditional military power, and signal that the battle is not confined to Ukrainian soil. For the global community, they highlight the dangers of an escalating conflict that could spiral further if not carefully managed. The world stands at a crossroads. I'm from Kashmir working in Delhi. Will these attacks serve as leverage to bring Russia to the negotiating table, or will they drive the conflict into an even more dangerous phase? The answer remains uncertain. But what is clear is that Russia now finds itself facing pressure on multiple fronts: military, political, economic, and psychological. The strikes have changed the shape of the war, and in doing so, they have changed the stakes for everyone involved. As each new drone crosses Russian skies, the question grows louder: how long can Moscow withstand the pressure, and what will it do next?